energy security in the short term, lower energy bills, improve the economy and employment, be robustly regulated to the highest standards, safe for people and the environment, reduce emissions, CO2 and greenhouse hydrocarbons. And the actions that they've taken to date, they're not all here, they are all on the website, but I've picked the key ones. The big one that has recently been in our minds is the definition of fracking. It's the only legal definition of any drilling form that currently, okay, the only legal statutory definition. And the government have now decided to confirm the statutory instrument that they put in place 2 years ago in the Infrastructure Act, which states that fracking is only fracking, or a drilling process is only fracking, according to the amount of liquids used in the process. And at the moment that's set at 10,000 cubic metres with about 2.2 million gallons per well. That's the only definition of what fracking is. And it's really important that you remember that for everything that I'm going to say in the future. That's probably the most important one. In the Infrastructure Act, initially, they had protected areas of natural beauty, etc., by saying that they couldn't be drilled from the surface if you were fracking, but you could only drill from the side, horizontally down to a depth below 12,000 metres. That's now changed, and I'll come back to that in a minute. They also, in the Infrastructure Act, said that the industry can leave the land, if you like, in a different condition to which they found it. That means they've also included a statutory instrument that says that they can leave materials below 300 metres under anyone's property without landowner permission. Also, they can drill horizontally from the side, this was the original thing in the Infrastructure Act, the side of areas of natural beauty or villages or whatever, but drill horizontally underneath them. Okay? There'll be massive tax cuts, and there'll be massive tax cuts for the industry. Welcome, do come in and join. Hi, do come in, do come in. There'll be massive tax cuts for the industry and subsidising of the industry, but also massive cuts in funding for renewables. The three most important agencies for the protection of our environment have, for the last 2 years, had budgetary cuts, and they're going to continue until possibly 2020, depending on the result of the election, I guess, or any changes that happen after that, or to 2025. And that's the Environment Agency, the Health and Safety Executive, and Natural England, and they're all meant to be guardians of regulations and our environment. Now, after 16 weeks, once the planning application is solid and into the council, a decision has to be made. If it's not made in that time, or if it's refused, then the Secretary of State can take it on board and overrule it, or decide that it was right. The DECC has been abolished. There's been a new government organisation called the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, and they've taken on some of the role of the DECC, the Department of Environment and Climate Change. And also a new company has been created, the Oil and Gas Authority, which takes on a lot of the other responsibilities that were previously with the DECC with regard to applications and monitoring and licensing for drilling. The government also has put forward last year a discussion document for the Shale Wealth Fund, which basically as a group we've studied and we feel it's a bit of a bribe really, based on payments by the industry to communities if you're fracking. Also there is currently the promise of £100,000 per frack site, if fracking again, and 1% of the profits that the industry makes. But if you have a look at any readout of end of year financial statement from many of the industrial groups, you'll find that they make a loss. So until they make a profit, that won't happen anyway. So what are the licenses for? They're for both conventional and unconventional hydrocarbons. I'll be talking more about those. It includes conventional oil and gas, tight oil and gas, shale oil and gas, coal bed methane and mine vent gas. There are geological definitions for the terms conventional and unconventional hydrocarbons, but as I said before, there are no statutory definitions to distinguish between these forms of drilling apart from the government definition of fracking. Where are the licence areas? Well, 60% of the UK is currently under review, and about 10 million acres are currently licensed. That's just, I think that this is, I don't even know which number, this is the 14th licensing round. There may well be more in the future. The Isle of Wight licences look like this. There are two licences. There's an onshore licence, which is the red line around the island, and then there's an offshore licence. So the onshore licence is called PEDL, Petroleum, can't remember the other one, Development Licence. Sorry, it's gone completely out of my head. PEDL 331, that was granted in 2015-16 to UCOG, UK Oil and Gas Investments Limited. Solar Oil PLC. Originally it went to Angus Energy, they had 5%. That group has already been bought out by a company called Doriemus PLC, which is run by a guy called David Lenegas. I do urge you to Google him, find out more about him. Offshore license P1916. This is clay that is under the water, but they want to drill for it, probably from onshore. Do come in. Please come in. Please don't apologise. It's absolutely great to see you. Come find a seat. So there's an onshore licence and there's an offshore licence. The offshore licence is owned, including the M prospect, which I'll be talking about later on, is owned entirely by UCOG. So these are the stages of fossil fuel extraction, whether it's gas or whatever. It starts with seismic testing. You then have exploration, appraisal, which includes flow testing to see how fast the product is flowing. You go into production and then the wells are decommissioned. So seismic testing. This leaflet is on the website, so I'm not going to dwell on it. But this is how you can identify whether seismic testing is happening in your area, because often the industry does not inform you, even if legitimately and legally they are supposed to inform you and ask your permission to be on your land in order to take seismic testing. Seismic testing is done just to confirm what they believe might be underground. Okay, they use 2D, sometimes 3D seismic analysis, which basically, in primary school terms, means you make a big noise, it goes down, bumps off the stuff underneath, comes back up and gives you a reading and tells you what's there. Okay, it's very simple terms, okay? So you should see notices. You will certainly see thumper trucks down in the bottom right. They're big things that you can't mix. Sometimes they will plant explosive devices about 8 metres down, so that they'll set those off, and the energy from that device, that explosion, will go down to create the echo that they need to actually decide how much oil is there. Best technical description I can give you. I'm not in the industry, however. And you'll see sensors and transmitters being laid. You might just see them across the